Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. There are 5 ranked versus ranked matchups in Week 5. And while everybody will be focusing on those games, there are still some big-time underrated matchups that we do need to focus on. Games that, yes, don't put ranked teams against each other, but games that easily will have major national or just conference implications. And we're here to break down the 5 biggest underrated games heading into this weekend. Of course, we will have individual prediction videos for those ranked versus ranked matchups like we talked about. But today, we're shedding some light on these games up on our whiteboard. So, before we get started, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos. Again, we are so glad you're here with us here at the Gridiron Expert. We want you to become a part of our GE Nation. So subscribe and check out everything down in the description below, including our expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com. Some of the best college football and NFL spread picks in the entire country. How good? Hitting over 84% of our money line picks and over 62% of our spread picks. Both some of the best marks in the entire country, beating out over 80% of the national analysts each of the last 4 years. Take advantage of those low prices, take advantage of those winnings, and become a part of our team today. So let's take a look at these 5 games up here, guys. Again, games that are huge. I mean, all of these have ranked teams involved. It's not a ranked versus ranked matchup, but ranked teams are involved that could easily affect the conference races or, for some, the national stage, like a team like Michigan, a team like even Washington. Those are games that are major. They're huge. And we'll start up here in the Pac-12 Friday night as number 15 Washington travels to take on UCLA, a battle of unbeatens. Both teams sitting at 4-0. You know, the Huskies guys are getting a lot of hype, right? 15th ranked team in the country, kind of bursting onto the scene. But UCLA, this is a chance for the Bruins to be seen as a true Pac-12 contender. You know, we know about Utah, we know about USC, Washington, Oregon, guys like that. This is an opportunity to throw UCLA in the mix if they can pull off this upset. And the crazy thing about this, guys, is statistically these two teams are very, very similar. Both teams are averaging over 40 points per game. Both are averaging over 500 yards per game on offense. Washington only allows 19 points per game defensively. UCLA, 1 point better at 18 points per game. Each are allowing under 90 rushing yards per game. Washington, just 213 through the air. UCLA, 210.8 through the air. I mean, they are about as dead even statistically as you can get. The kicker here is the fact that Washington will be the toughest test that UCLA has seen all year. You know, this is a UCLA team, guys, that, you know, so far has beaten up on the cupcake schools. And keep in mind, one of them, South Alabama, UCLA needed a field goal as time expired to win that game. They beat Bowling Green, they beat South Alabama, they beat Colorado. Washington, on the other hand, they took down a top 12 team in Michigan State a few weeks ago. Then they beat Stanford by 18, a Stanford team that's not great but isn't a slouch like Colorado. You know, Washington has been more battle-tested. UCLA has not. And right now, guys, I love this Washington team more than UCLA. I love what Michael Penix is doing, fully healthy, igniting this offense for the Huskies. I have a lot more faith in Washington's defense than I do of UCLA. I think the Huskies are more battle-tested, maybe a little more well-coached with Kalen DeBoer. And let's be honest, it is at UCLA, but the Bruins typically don't have much of a home field advantage. They have the beautiful Rose Bowl Stadium, and no one shows up for those games. It's not going to be much of a home field advantage for UCLA. The crowd won't play that big of a role. I think Washington, truly to me, is the better team, and the Huskies get by with a narrow victory and keep inching their way towards the top 10 and solidifying themselves as a legitimate Pac-12 title and maybe even playoff contender. Speaking of a true playoff contender, we've got Michigan traveling on the road to Iowa. Man, I tell you what, this is a trap game, right? We know it is. You know, game at Kinnick Stadium, one of the most difficult places to play in the country. You know, first off, a rematch right now of the Big Ten Championship from last year. Michigan beat Iowa in the Big Ten Championship 42-3 last year. But I will say the last time a top 4 Michigan team visited Iowa, Iowa won 14-13, all the way back in, 2016? 14-13 victory for Iowa the last time that a top 4 team Michigan visited Kinnick Stadium. But that was back when Iowa had a little bit, just a little bit, of offense. They don't have it now. Iowa offensively, guys, we know is horrendous. 232.5 yards per game. Only averaging 17 points per game. They dropped 27 points on Rutgers last week. Let's keep in mind that 2 of those touchdowns for them were from defensive touchdowns. Special teams and defense carries the load for Iowa last week against Rutgers. The offense didn't do anything. Still abysmal. 17 points per game. The defense for Iowa, though, very stingy. 5.8 points per game, allowing just 236.3 total yards per game, just 73 on the ground. And that's really the storyline here. Michigan's a run-heavy team. Michigan and Blake Corum, guys, they're averaging over 230 rushing yards per game. They're going up against one of the stingiest rushing defenses in the country on their turf. Can Michigan exploit that? Can they win this game? Yes, they can. Because Michigan's defense is pretty solid too. Yeah, they were exploited a little bit last week against Maryland. Iowa, offensively, is no Maryland. I expect Jim Harbaugh and the Wolverines to start slow, overcome that Kinnick crowd, though. They will take down Iowa in Iowa City. Again, if the Hawkeyes have a little bit more of an offense, maybe. But I don't expect them to be able to move the ball much against the Wolverines, just like they were unable to last year in the Big Ten Championship game. Michigan will get the ground game going in time, and they will win this game. Iowa really facing the toughest team they've seen all year, and Michigan should be able to handle it on the road. Number 18, Oklahoma at TCU, a series where Oklahoma has won 8 straight against the Horned Frogs. This game, guys, is huge for the Big 12. You look at Oklahoma. If they lose this game, if TCU pulls off this upset, the Sooners would have their second conference loss, and that might eliminate them from the Big 12 title race, especially when you've got teams like Baylor and Oklahoma State, Kansas State, maybe even TCU if the Horned Frogs win this game. This is a potential upset game here that would move TCU to 4-0, solidify themselves as Big 12 title contenders, and could put Oklahoma out. How does Oklahoma, really the question here, respond after their heartbreaking loss to Kansas State last week in Norman? Does Brent Venables right the ship? The first time he's really faced adversity as a head coach at Oklahoma, again, just his first year. How does he right the ship? How does he bring this team back? I think he brings them back with a big burst of offense. You look at the numbers here. TCU's allowing over 272 passing yards per game. Oklahoma averaging over 280 behind Dylan Gabriel's 1,089 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. He takes very good care of the football and has been very dominant on the ground as well, as trying to contribute more as a runner. I believe Oklahoma, guys, while I do allow a lot of points in this game to TCU because the Horned Frogs offense is no slouch, I believe the Sooners are able to exploit this TCU defense, which will struggle a little bit, and they understand that their whole season could be resting in the balance of one game. Their whole season rests against TCU. You lose, it is over. You win, you keep everything alive. Brent Venables and the Sooners will realize that. They'll make the better adjustments. He will outcoach Sonny Dykes. Oklahoma gets a narrow victory over TCU on the road. Purdue at number 21, Minnesota. This can be a quick, really hitter. Why is this game up here? It's because these are arguably the best two teams in the Big Ten West. I mean, think about it. Minnesota clearly right now is. Purdue, with that passing attack, assuming Aiden O'Connell is okay, is pretty solid. Nebraska's not it. Illinois is not it. Wisconsin and Iowa are good defensively, but bad offensively. This game has a lot of conference implications in terms of Minnesota improving to 2-0 in conference play and solidifying themselves as a team to beat in the Big Ten West. The Golden Gophers, guys, have won 4 straight over the Boilermakers, and you look at the numbers here, again, the defense for Minnesota is just unreal. They're allowing just 126 passing yards, 61.8 rushing yards, for a total of 187.8 total yards per game. That's how much they're allowing through 4 games this year. And they dominated a solid, not great, but solid Michigan State team on the road this last weekend. Purdue, they averaged 311 passing yards per game. If Aiden O'Connell is back fully healthy, did not play in that win over Florida Atlantic, he might be able to give this Golden Gophers defense the best test they've seen, at least through the air. But I have more faith in PJ Fleck, Minnesota being at home, this defense that's electric, and obviously a rushing game for Minnesota that has been dominant, nearly averaging 300 rushing yards per game. I love Minnesota in this game. Yes, the last 3 games between the Boilermakers and the Golden Gophers have been decided by 1 possession. The last 3 decided by 1 possession, but Minnesota should win this game by at least a touchdown, if not more, to move to 5-0 heading into their bye week, and you can start taking the Golden Gophers seriously as a Big Ten title contender and maybe a playoff dark horse. And then finally, guys, SEC. So we're really hitting all of them. Pac-12, Big Ten, Big 12, SEC. No ACC games up here, but obviously we have Clemson and North Carolina State coming in the following days. Number 17, Texas A&M at Mississippi State. Again, I love this game a lot too, and I love the Bulldogs in this game. The Bulldogs upset Texas A&M in College Station last year, 26-22, and now I don't even know if you call it much of an upset, other than Mississippi State just beating a ranked team and them being unranked. A&M, guys, I will say, has been very, very fortunate. They've been very lucky. You know, they lost to Appalachian State in week 2. They have been outgained in their last 3 games. They were outgained against Appalachian State. They were outgained against Miami. They were outgained against Arkansas. Miami and Arkansas beat themselves in the losses to the Aggies. So A&M is the 17th ranked team in the country. Yes, they only have 1 loss, and they're putting the App State game behind them, but they really probably shouldn't be in this spot. I believe the Aggies are still severely overrated and don't have an offense whatsoever. Mississippi State does. Again, the Bulldogs averaging 351 passing yards per game. Will Rogers over 1,300 yards and 16 touchdowns this year. The offense for Mississippi State is significantly better than the Aggies. The defense is only allowing 113.5 rushing yards per game, and that is how A&M has to win the game because they don't have a passing offense. Whether it was Haynes King or Max Johnson, they haven't been able to air it out at all. They're not going to be able to do it on the road in a hostile Starkville territory with those clanging cowbells going everywhere, especially with A&M maybe looking ahead a little bit to next week's meeting against Alabama. And you know they're going to be excited for that game. They did that last year, looked ahead a little bit. Mississippi State beat them in College Station. The Bulldogs beat them again now in Starkville, ruined the A&M Bama hype heading into next week. Mississippi State should become a top 25 team. A&M again proving again they're overrated. Again, beat Miami, beat Arkansas, good for them. They deserve to win, but they really didn't do much to win it. Miami and Arkansas more so beat themselves rather than the Aggies winning those games outright. So, Mississippi State pulls off a minor upset here and again tries to create more chaos in the SEC West. So there you have it, guys. 5 quick picks for this college football weekend, guys. Week 5 of college football. Again, we have 5 ranked versus ranked matchups. We're going to have individual videos out for all of those ranked versus ranked matchups. We're going to have deeper analysis, predictions for all 5 of those games. We want to give you 5 underrated matchups to kind of keep your eye on throughout the course of Saturday. Most of these actually taking place in the morning, but we got Washington, Michigan, Oklahoma, Minnesota, and Mississippi State all winning on Saturday. Keep an eye on it, guys. Another wild weekend of college football is coming up. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below, including our expert picks. Again, some of the best college football and NFL spread picks in the entire country. Go take advantage of those, guys, so you can start winning with us today. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.